The observation deck of the Council Citadel stretched across 3 kilometers of transparent aluminum, offering a view of the spiral nebula that had witnessed 10,000 years of galactic politics. Ambassador Marcus Rivera stood before this cosmic canvas, his reflection ghostly against the swirling purples and blues beyond. He adjusted his Earth Federation uniform one final time, feeling the weight of 6 billion souls resting on his shoulders. "They are ready for us," Dr. Theo Blackwood said quietly, his datapad clutching nervous fingers. The astrophysicist had designed most of humanity's peaceful contact protocols, yet his brown eyes now carried doubt. "Marcus, something feels wrong. The preliminary meetings were cordial, but the energy today—" "I feel it too," Lieutenant Jade Mercer interrupted, her hand instinctively moving toward her empty holster. "Council regulations for bad weapons in the chamber. Security protocols have doubled. Scanner drones everywhere. They're treating us like a threat." Marcus nodded slowly. Humanity had spent 12 years proving themselves worthy of Council membership. They had shared medical advances that cured 3 species-wide plagues. They had mediated peace between warring factions. They had followed every archaic rule and regulation without complaint. Yet the air itself tasted of betrayal. The massive doors to the Grand Chamber opened with a hiss. Inside, representatives from 473 species filled the amphitheater in concentric circles, arranged by caste. The Velosian Empire occupied the highest tier, their crystalline forms refracting light like living chandeliers. The Bargathai war caste sat in the upper middle sections, their armored bodies gleaming with ceremonial weapons. Below them, the merchant guilds. Below them, the labor castes. At the very bottom, barely visible, sat the protected species, those deemed too primitive or weak to govern themselves. Marcus walked to the central platform, Theo and Jade flanking him. Silence fell like a blade. High Chancellor Vrostal of Velosia rose, his voice resonating through translation matrices. "Humanity of Earth, you stand accused of violating Council Doctrine 742, disruption of established caste equilibrium." Marcus's jaw tightened. "We are unaware of any violations. We have followed every—" "You traded advanced agricultural technology with the Krell," Vrostal interrupted, his form flashing angry red. "You provided defensive satellites to the Myrathai. You educated the Solvine in quantum mechanics. These species are protected. They exist under our stewardship. Your actions undermine millennia of carefully maintained order." "Those species asked for help," Marcus replied, his voice steady. "We treated them as equals. As intelligent beings capable of self-determination." The chamber erupted in voices. Some shouted agreement. Most roared in outrage. "Equals?" A Bargathai commander slammed his fist against his console. "The Krell are laborious. The Myrathai are primitives. You disrespect the natural hierarchy." Theo stepped forward, his scientist's mind seeking logic. "With respect, what makes one species inherently superior? The Krell have demonstrated remarkable—" "Silence." Vrostal's voice cracked like thunder. "We have evidence of human aggression." A hologram materialized above the chamber, footage of human warships firing upon a Velosian trade convoy. Marcus stared in disbelief. "That's fabricated. Our ships were never—" "Do you call this council liars?" Another delegate rose, then another, until dozens stood in accusation. Jade whispered urgently, "Marcus, we need to leave. Now." But Marcus remained rooted. He finally understood. This was never about violations. This was about fear. Humanity had committed an unforgivable sin. They had shown the lower caste that another way was possible. "You will leave the council," Vrostal declared. "You will retreat to your home system. You will cease all contact with protected species. Failure to comply will result in military intervention." The chamber fell silent, waiting for humanity's submission. Marcus looked up at the hundreds of faces staring down at him. In the lowest tiers, he saw the Krell delegation watching with desperate hope. The Myrathai representatives leaned forward, their warrior eyes burning with intensity. The Solvine scholars clutched their data tablets like lifelines. "No," Marcus said simply. The word echoed. "Humanity rejects your ultimatum. We will not abandon those who asked for our friendship. We will not pretend that some species deserve less dignity than others." His voice grew stronger. "You call yourselves a council, but you are simply an empire of the powerful crushing those beneath them. If that is your order, then humanity wants no part of it." Vrostal's form blazed white with fury. "Then you choose annihilation." Marcus smiled grimly. We choose something you've forgotten how to recognize. Freedom. As security drones descended, Jade activated their emergency extraction beacon. The three humans vanished in a shimmer of teleportation light, leaving the council chamber in chaos. On the observation deck, now empty, the nebula continued its eternal spiral. But somewhere in its depths, humanity was already reaching out, not to the powerful, but to the forgotten. The game had changed. The council just didn't know it yet. The construction bay of Unity's Dawn stretched 15 kilometers in diameter, a massive ring station that served as the heart of humanity's grand experiment. Captain Sienna Cross stood on the command bridge, watching through reinforced viewports as hundreds of ships docked and departed in carefully choreographed patterns. 5 years had transformed everything. Where once humanity stood alone, now they commanded the loyalty of 4 to 7 species, and more arrived every week. Captain, the Krell engineering teams have completed the Western power grid ahead of schedule, reported Officer Devon Jong from his console. Torvin says they are ready to begin work on the shipyard expansion. Sienna smiled. The Krell had been slaves for 3,000 years under Bargathai rule, relegated to menial labor despite possessing brilliant spatial reasoning abilities. Now they designed some of the Commonwealth's most innovative structures. Tell Torvin I want to meet with him personally. His people deserve recognition. A massive figure appeared in the doorway, Torvin himself, nearly 3 meters tall with 6 powerful arms and skin like polished obsidian. Where chains once hung from his wrists, now he wore the silver insignia of Commonwealth Chief Engineer. Captain Cross, I hope to catch you before the Myrathai demonstration. Torvin's voice rumbled like distant thunder. My teams wish to present something. Always full of surprises, Sienna replied warmly. Lead the way. They walked through corridors bustling with diversity. A Solvene scientist debated quantum theory with a human physicist. Myrathai warriors trained alongside Earth's Marines, their four-armed combat style revolutionizing tactical doctrine. Species that had never been allowed to speak in council chambers now contributed as equals, and the results exceeded anyone's predictions. In the engineering bay, 50 Krell stood before a holographic projection. Torvin activated the display, a ship design unlike anything Sienna had seen. We call it the Harmony class, Torvin explained, his secondary arms gesturing enthusiastically. Traditional human defensive philosophy combined with Krell spatial efficiency and Myrathai combat doctrine. It's 30% faster, 40% more efficient, and costs half the resources of equivalent council vessels. Sienna studied the elegant design, her tactical mind already seeing its potential. How many can we build? With current resources? 20 per month. But Captain. Torvin's voice dropped. Scouts report Velosian Armada movement near the border. They're coming. The announcement she'd been expecting. Dreading. Assemble the command staff. It's time. An hour later, the strategic center filled with humanity's allies. General Marcus Rivera, promoted from ambassador to military coordinator, stood beside Myrathai war chief Kessera, a four-armed warrior whose people had been dismissed as primitive savages. Her tactical genius had proven otherwise, she'd never lost a simulation, never made the same mistake twice. Velosian fleet numbering 300 warships, Kessera reported, her translated voice sharp and clear. Council standard intimidation formation. They expect us to scatter. Recommendations? Sienna asked. Don't fire a single shot, Kessera replied, her eyes gleaming with predatory intelligence. Let me show you how my people survived for millennia against superior numbers. Marcus raised an eyebrow. You have a plan that doesn't involve combat. War isn't about fighting, Ambassador. It's about making your enemy question whether fighting is wise. Over the next 6 hours, the Commonwealth fleet assembled, not in aggressive formations, but in something the Council had never seen. Ships of different species formed interlocking defensive spheres, each protecting the other's vulnerabilities. Krell-designed shield networks created overlapping barriers. Human electronic warfare systems created sensor distortions. Myrathai pilots positioned small, fast interceptors in patterns that made targeting solutions impossible. When the Velosian Armada arrived, led by Admiral Zexus aboard the dreadnought Infinite Glory, they found something that shattered their tactical doctrine. Open a channel, Sienna commanded. Admiral Zexus appeared on screen, his crystalline form pulsing with confident superiority. Commonwealth vessels, you are harboring Council property. Surrender the Krell, Myrathai, and other protected species immediately or face obliteration. Sienna remained perfectly calm. Admiral, you're welcome to try. But before you do, Please review the tactical analysis we're sending you. Zexus's expression flickered, the first sign of uncertainty. His tactical officers processed the data, and Sienna watched their confidence crumble through the video feed. The Commonwealth formation wasn't just defensive, it was a perfect trap. Any attack vector would expose Velosian ships to crossfire from multiple angles. Their numerical advantage meant nothing in such tight quarters. Their powerful weapons would risk hitting their own vessels. The sensor distortions made targeted strikes nearly impossible. You cannot win, Zexus declared, but his voice wavered. You're absolutely right, Sienna agreed. No one can win this engagement. If you attack, you'll lose 60% of your fleet destroying ours. The Council will call it victory. But Admiral, think about what happens next. She leaned forward. 4 to 7 species just watched humanity and our allies outmaneuver the Council's finest fleet without firing a shot. How many more species will that inspire to join us? How many Council members will start questioning whether the old ways still work? Silence stretched across the void of space. Kessera whispered to Marcus, now he understands. The greatest victory is the fight that never happens. Admiral Zexus's form dimmed, a gesture of deep consideration among Velosians. This isn't over, Captain Cross. No, Sienna replied gently. It's just beginning. But it doesn't have to be war. We offer an alternative. The Velosian fleet withdrew. No shots fired. No lives lost. Yet the message echoed across every Council world. Within days, 12 more species formally requested Commonwealth membership. 3 were from privileged castes, their leaders recognizing that merit served better than birthright. The balance was shifting. In her quarters that night, Sienna reviewed intelligence reports. The Council was fracturing, reformers versus traditionalists, fear versus pragmatism. Some advocated for peaceful negotiation. Others demanded total war. Devon entered with urgent news. Captain, you need to see this. One of the Velosian escorts didn't retreat with the fleet. On screen, a single Velosian ship approached under white flag protocols. They're requesting asylum, Devon continued, his voice filled with wonder. The entire crew. They want to join the Commonwealth. Sienna felt the weight of history pressing down. Even the elite were defecting now. The Council hadn't just underestimated humanity, they'd underestimated the power of an idea. That everyone deserved dignity. That cooperation outperformed domination. That a better way existed. Grant them sanctuary, she commanded. And prepare a message for transmission. It's time the entire galaxy heard our story. The Commonwealth's borders expanded not through conquest, but through hope. And hope, Sienna had learned, was the most powerful weapon of all. The Council citadel looked different now. Ambassador Octavia Grant noticed it immediately as her shuttle approached the ancient station. Entire sections sat dark, their power diverted elsewhere. Docking bays that once bustled with hundreds of diplomatic vessels now held barely a dozen. The mighty heart of galactic civilization was dying, and everyone could see it. 10 years, muttered Commander Felix Rains from the pilot's seat, his weathered hands steady on the controls. 10 years since Marcus told them no. Hard to believe we're back here. Beside Octavia sat Professor Amora Osei, the Commonwealth's chief cultural liaison, her tablet displaying real-time data feeds. 63% of former Council species have joined or applied to join the Commonwealth. Their economy has contracted by half. 3 civil wars in former member states. The numbers don't lie, their system is collapsing. Octavia stared at the citadel's fading grandeur, feeling no satisfaction in their desperation. We didn't come to gloat. We came because people are suffering. If we can end this peacefully, we must try. The docking procedure felt deliberately humiliating. They were assigned a bay in the lower merchant sections, far from the diplomatic levels. A petty gesture that revealed how much pride still blinded the Council leadership. Former High Chancellor Vexnar waited for them, and the transformation shocked Octavia. The Velosian who once shone like a living star now appeared dim, his crystalline structure clouded with stress fractures. 2 Bargathai guards flanked him, but their armor looked worn, maintained poorly. Ambassador Grant, Vexnar's voice carried none of its former authority. Thank you for coming. Chancellor, Octavia replied carefully, noting his technical demotion. Your message indicated urgency. Walk with me, please. They moved through corridors Octavia recognized from historical footage, the same halls where Marcus had been expelled. But now they felt abandoned. Offices sat empty. Automated systems malfunctioned without proper maintenance. Vexnar noticed her observations. We miscalculated, he said simply. The Krell maintained our infrastructure. The Solvine managed our data systems. The Myrathai trained our security forces. When they left, they took their knowledge with them. We thought they were replaceable. He paused. We were wrong about everything. Professor Osei spoke gently. Recognition is the first step toward change. They entered what had been the Grand Chamber. Where 473 species once gathered, now barely 80 delegates sat scattered in the vast space. Many wore expressions of bitter resentment. Others showed genuine despair. A Bargathai commander stood abruptly. Why are we negotiating with these usurpers? We should be planning military campaigns. With what fleet, General Thex? Vexnar replied wearily. Half our shipyards have closed. Our engineers defected to the Commonwealth. Our warriors train under Myrathai doctrine now. We have nothing left to fight with. Then we rebuild. Thex roared. We remind the galaxy of our power. Power built on what foundation? A new voice emerged from the upper tiers, Chancellor Priya of the Neheran Directorate, a species Octavia recognized as recent council reformers. Our power came from controlling resources we claimed to protect. The Commonwealth proved those protected species never needed protection, they needed opportunity. Our entire civilization was built on a lie. The chamber erupted in arguments. Some delegates shouted agreements. Others hurled accusations. The council was tearing itself apart. Octavia raised her hand, and surprisingly, silence fell. Perhaps they were simply exhausted. We didn't come to conquer, she began, her voice carrying across the vast space. We came to offer what humanity has always valued, choice. Felix activated a holographic display, a real-time map of the galaxy. Commonwealth territory glowed blue, Council territory red. The blue now surrounded and exceeded the red completely. The Terran Commonwealth controls 70% of known space, Octavia continued. Our economy is thriving. Our member species prosper. Not because we're superior, but because we recognized a simple truth: collaboration beats domination every time. You destroyed our order, a delegate accused. No, Professor Osei interjected. Your order destroyed itself. It was always going to collapse. Oppression systems always do. We simply offered an alternative when people needed one. Vexnar moved to the center of the chamber, his form flickering with what Octavia recognized as deep shame. What the humans and their allies built in 10 years surpassed what we built in 10,000. They did it without slaves. Without castes. Without forcing anyone to submit. They proved we were wrong. His voice strengthened. I was wrong. And I'm asking, what comes next? This was the moment. Octavia had rehearsed this speech for weeks, but now, facing the ruins of an ancient empire, she spoke from her heart. The Commonwealth offers full membership to any council species who wishes to join. Equal status. Equal voice. No punishment for past actions. We believe in moving forward, not dwelling in revenge. You would welcome us? Chancellor Priya asked incredulously. After everything? We welcome anyone who shares our values, Octavia replied. Merit over birthright. Cooperation over domination. Progress over tradition for tradition's sake. General Thex stood again, but this time his voice carried defeat rather than anger. And if we refuse? If we try to maintain the council as it was? Felix answered grimly, then you become irrelevant. Your species will continue leaving. Your systems will continue failing. Eventually, you'll be alone on this station, maintaining an empire of empty halls and faded glory. The brutal honesty silenced everyone. There's a third option, Professor Osei added softly. Merge the council with the Commonwealth. Combine our institutions. Keep what worked in your system, discard what didn't. Create something new that honors both histories. Murmurs rippled through the chamber. Some interested. Some horrified. But all uncertain. Vexnar's form pulsed with deliberation. And humans would accept this? After we expelled you? Threatened you? Fabricated evidence against you? Octavia smiled sadly. Marcus Rivera, the man you humiliated 10 years ago, personally authorized this mission. He believes redemption is possible. So do I. Over the next 6 hours, they debated. Reformers like Chancellor Priya argued passionately for integration. Traditionalists like General Thex resisted, clinging to old certainties. But slowly, inevitably, reality won over pride. When the vote came, it wasn't unanimous, 38 for integration, 26 against, 16 abstaining. but it was enough. As Octavia departed the Citadel, now officially a transitional facility during the merger process, she looked back one final time. Lights were returning to darkened sections. Maintenance crews, mixed human, Krell, and Bargathai, were already repairing damaged systems. The ancient station was being reborn. Felix navigated their shuttle toward Commonwealth space. Think it'll work? Bringing them in? Some will adapt, Professor Osei replied. Some won't. But we're giving them the chance. That's all anyone can ask. Octavia thought of Marcus Rivera standing in this same spot a decade ago, refusing to submit, choosing freedom over safety. His defiance had changed everything. Not through violence, but through vision, showing the galaxy that another way existed. It's already working, she said quietly. The Commonwealth just doubled in size. But more importantly, we proved something crucial. What's that? Felix asked. That civilizations can evolve without destroying themselves. That change doesn't require revolution, just the courage to admit when you're wrong and the wisdom to try something better. 3 months later, the formal integration ceremony occurred aboard Unity's Dawn. Captain Sienna Cross stood beside Marcus Rivera, now Commonwealth Secretary-General, as hundreds of species gathered, former council members mixing freely with those they once oppressed. Torvin the Krell engineer worked alongside a Velosian scientist, designing the next generation of starships. Myrathai war chief Kessera trained former Bargathai commanders in her tactical doctrines, turning enemies into allies. Sulvene scholars taught in universities alongside human professors, their combined knowledge expanding faster than ever. The galaxy hadn't achieved perfection, conflict still arose, disagreements still flared. But now they had something unprecedented, a framework where problems could be solved through dialogue rather than dominance. Marcus stood at the podium for his speech, looking out at the impossible gathering. 10 years ago, the Council kicked humanity out of the Galactic Order. They thought they were protecting themselves from disruption. Instead, they freed us to build something better. He paused, letting the words sink in. We didn't build an empire to rival theirs. We built a home for anyone who believed in equality, dignity, and cooperation. Today, with their merger into the Commonwealth, we prove that no one is beyond redemption, not even those who once rejected us. The crowd erupted in applause, not polite diplomatic courtesy, but genuine celebration. Octavia watched from the side, feeling the weight of history. Humanity had been cast out, threatened with annihilation, and forced to choose between submission and independence. They chose independence. And in doing so, they didn't just save themselves, they showed an entire galaxy how to be better. The Council became a monument to their own hubris, as predicted. But unlike ancient ruins left to decay, this monument transformed into something new. A reminder that even the mightiest can change. That pride can give way to wisdom. That endings can become beginnings. As the ceremony concluded and species mingled freely, slave beside master, primitive beside advanced, all equals now, Octavia realized the true victory. Humanity hadn't just built a bigger empire. They'd built a better one. And they'd done it by remembering the simple truth that had always defined them. Everyone deserves a chance to be more than what others expect them to be. The galaxy would never be the same. And for the first time in its long history, that was cause for hope.